Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Abdullah Laghari, working as a senior lecturer, Department of English, Quaid-e-Awam University of Engineering, Science and Technology. Today, I feel pleased to be the part of this Gloria Conference, third international conference on global politics and socio-humanities. It is, of course, privilege to be the part of this conference as a keynote speaker. This is the fifth time I'm delivering my keynote talk, and today's keynote talk is all about collaborative learning strategies. Let me tell you something about collaborative learning strategies. In third world countries, there is still the concept of one-way traffic in which teachers believe that learning is with teacher-centered approach, learning is to be dominated by a teacher and in which teacher controls everything. But the fact is, it's not the case. The case is learning is, of course, two-way traffic in which teacher and learners have to equally participate in the class. There has to be interaction, there has to be negotiation, there has to be a task which is to be debated, and this is to be supported by the teacher. Then the learning can be possible, because this approach, both the teacher and the learners, they come into contact, they come together. As a result, students that have the fear factors, the information gap fills, and then their fear factor that also removes. So let's talk about, because it's all about collaboration. Once you are working collaboratively in contact with the teacher, then the learning becomes more effective. Let me tell you something about what collaborative teaching and learning strategies are. To begin with, collaborative learning is an umbrella term for a variety of educational approaches involving joint intellectual effort by students, and teachers together. So it's all about teachers and students. Once teachers and students are on the board, then the learning becomes effective, learning becomes satisfactory, and that learning becomes up to the expectations also. The learning leads to the meaningful dialogue, meaningful discussions, and these meaningful dialogues and discussions lead towards the problem solutions that are existing in the context. Usually, students are working in groups of two or more, mutually searching for understanding solutions. Our meanings are creating product, the research says. It's of course the collaboration. It can be in case of groups, in case of pairs, in case of the pool also. That group, that pair, that pool can turn out to be, the problem solution towards the problem that students are anybody else is facing in the context. So they also argue that to learn new information, ideas, and skills, our students have to work actively with them in purposeful ways. The students can be active once there is collaboration, once there is interactive learning. Otherwise, you can witness passivity on the part of students, hardly front bench students, the front benches, they can be active. And what about the middle ones? What about the, those students who are sitting at the back? They cannot actively participate if it is one-way traffic, if it is one-way show, if it is teacher dominance in the classroom. That is why collaborative learning strategies are very important. So collaborative learning is a student-centered approach, as I said, because in which we have to give a space to students. Students sit together, they negotiate, they discuss together, and finally, they come up with their own learning approaches. They come up with their own innovative ideas to find out solutions towards the problem they are facing. So it is a student-centered approach in that it allows students to construct their own learning through meaningful group processes. Meaningful. It becomes meaningful because learning is all about process. Until and unless you engage your learners, it doesn't become a process. So you want a process, you want a product, it has to go through a process, and that is by engaging students into meaningful dialogues, into meaningful discussions, rather than just watching, listening, and copying notes. Through these approaches, learners become very passive in the class. Then there is no use of class. Hardly there can be any advantage of such classes in which there is no collaborative learning strategy. So let me tell you the scope of collaborative learning strategies. Collaborative learning strategies play a crucial role in fostering a conducive learning environment, wherein students actively engage with peers to acquire knowledge and develop essential skills. So it talks about, because it's collaborative learning strategy that provides conducive learning atmosphere, friendly or home-like, family-like atmosphere. Once the strategy of teaching and learning is collaborative, once the students and learners are working together. Otherwise, what happens that students getting bad image of a teacher if everything is controlled on the part of a teacher. So collaborative learning strategies are useful in promoting critical thinking, communication skills, and teamwork. Of course, it's a teamwork, because when you're working in a team, certainly you're using your mind, you're conveying your ideas, you're discussing something. And in this process, you will be able to improve your own communication skills, and more importantly, your critical skills, because they are promoted once you're working jointly, once you're working in a teamwork, because it's a teamwork that leads towards the positive resolutions, that leads towards the positive outcomes at the end of the class, at the end of the semester or the session as a whole. Through collaboration, learners may develop explanation, demonstration, problem solving, metacognitive skills. Of course, they get gift of the gap. They get skills to explain the things, to demonstrate the things, to solve the problems, and using their mind creatively and critically. Even learners may benefit from sharing the load of challenging tasks. Of course, because learning is challenging. Once the learning is easy, or once the learning is difficult, you know, the learning is when students are put in a challenging situation so that they may be able to gain something, understand something from it. And now let's talk about the context in collaborative learning. You can have a look at the picture. How is the atmosphere? You know, the one is taking everyone on the board. Okay, the person sitting in the center initiates, negotiates, talks to them in a friendly atmosphere, and everybody feels happy, and everybody can share the things easily, conveniently, feeling giving the perception of a family-like atmosphere. Yes, of course, collaborative learning is exactly like that. So the research suggests that learning is fundamentally influenced by the context and activity in which it is embedded. Because if you can, if you're decontextualizing, the learning never becomes as effective as it should be. You have to contextualize the learning, and that is why learners be immersed in the rich learning atmosphere. I mean, that is the context, that is the situation. Context refers to environment. In context, students turn to active agents in the learning process and collaborate in the formation of their own knowledge. Once it's a collaborative learning, students become the active agents in the learning process. Once the students are the active agents, then we can expect that they can devise something new. They can come up with their new approaches towards the critical or the challenging issues they are faced with. And thus, this can finally lead towards the formation of new knowledge or rich insights at the end of the day. Why do we use collaborative learning strategies? You can have a look on this. The concept of sage on the stage, it was considered that teacher is the only authority, teacher is authoritative, and teacher is the only one person who is knowledgeable, and rest of, the students, they are coming with empty minds. It's not the case. So learning is I told you, is two-way traffic. It is bi-sided. It is interactive, in which everyone, teacher and students, are to be taken on the board. We use collaborative learning strategies because they promote student learning and academic achievement. Collaborative learning strategies, they enhance student satisfaction with their learning experience. The students get engaged, they participate, and they coordinate with their peers also, with their teachers also. Thus, they become satisfied what they are achieving in their classes. So it also, Collaborative learning strategies, they help students develop their skills, especially in oral communication. They are very communicative. They become effective communicators after they get engaged and discuss with their friends, develop students' social skills. More importantly, socialization. The concept of socialization comes once students are sitting in a pool, they are finding out something innovative, they become social, they become friendly also. The concept of socialization is very much possible in collaborative learning strategies. Otherwise, in teacher-centered approach, students do not find any space to socialize, any space to be friendly, or to talk to their classmates. They promote student self-esteem, increase student retention, develop a community of learners. Once we give importance to learners as a community, is the ones who can also produce knowledge. Because I believe that a teacher is the one who learns from the students. There are so many things that in a classroom we learn from the students. The students give us such ideas, we are unaware of. So now let's discuss some of the crucial concepts of collaborative learning. The very first one is positive interdependence, face-to-face interaction, individual and group accountability, interpersonal and small group skills, and finally, that is group processing. Now let's move towards the very first one, that is positive interdependence. Each group member's efforts are required and indispensable for group success. The success of a group is when you are taking every student on board. And once the teacher is engaging students positively, for example, in a group, is assigning a group representative, is giving them a role of leadership, and that person, that student as a leader is taking every student on the board, giving importance, equal importance to everyone, it becomes very effective in the sense that each group member's efforts, they go very fruitful, and as a result, that leads to success. Each group member has a unique contribution to make to the joint effort because of his or her resources, are the role and the task responsibilities. Once everybody is playing the role assigned to, then the workload becomes easy, and as a result, all the students, they can produce something productive which is very useful. And this is what the concern of learning is. Once all the students are on the one single platform where they are provided with space to discuss together. Face-to-face interaction, it is concerned with orally explaining how to solve problems. You can see in the picture also, problems can be solved once you are communicating face-to-face. You can visualize, you can see eye contact, facial expressions, gestures, teaching one's knowledge to others. You can share, you can rather transfer. You can transfer the knowledge from your mind to the other's one. And similarly, you can also gain something from them also as a result of interaction. And checking for understanding, discussing concepts being learned, connecting present with past learning. You can also recall the memories, you can go back, you can evaluate, and thus you can come up with something which is much needed in that particular context. And then it is individual and group accountability. Certainly, when you're working in group learning or in collaboration, it is a responsibility of each member. It's not only the responsibility of a leader or the one who initiator of the task. I'm a teacher. No, it's a responsibility of every individual, even if each member of that group, even if it's small. So giving an individual task to each student, randomly examining students orally, observing each group and recording the frequency with which each member contributes to the group's work, assigning one student in each group the role of checker, and having students teach what they learn to someone else. Once it's a group work, once it's a collaborative work, once students are given a task to work on, at the end of the day, at the end of the task, it's your responsibility. I mean, a teacher should assess, should evaluate what is the contribution of each member, what is the contribution of the group as a whole, and how much the group work has been supportive. This has to be concluded at the end, so that one must know about the importance of collaborative learning strategy, because collaborative learning strategies are very effective, very helpful in terms of generating knowledge, in terms of leading to insightful learning. Interpersonal and it is social group skills. Social skills must be taught. For example, once we are working in a group, once we are working in collaboration, leadership skills, decision making, trust building, communication, conflict management skills also. Sometimes in a group, students don't reach the consensus. They are not on the one and single point. In this particular case, a leader is the one who can manage this sort of conflict situation and can manage the things accordingly. And through, in this process, you can improve your communication skills also. You can take some decisions as well. You can learn leadership. You can learn the importance of trust building, because it's very essential in collaborative learning. There has to be a trust. Until you trust each other, you cannot successfully deliver and you cannot reach the objectives you have been aiming for. And finally, it is group processing. So group members discuss how well they are achieving their goals and maintaining effective working relationships. Yes, it's all about effective working relationships. How cordial, how closer the working relationship is. This is possible once you are working in collaboration, once learners, they understand the value of each other, the value of teamwork, the value of togetherness, the value of working as a group, working as a dynamic team. It is possible once they are working in teamwork, hence that work becomes effective at the end of the project or plan. So group processing, it also aims at describing what member actions are helpful or not helpful, making decisions about what behaviors to continue or what to change. Because once you are at the evaluation phase, you need to decide, you need to modify, filter. So what was possible that needs to be continued, and what was unpleasant that needs to be discontinued, that needs to be modified also, because whatever is helpful, that should be continued, and by doing so, it can have more effective effects on learners, on that particular community, and as a whole, it can contribute positively to the research also. Now, let's conclude. I talked about the concept of collaborative learning because it's a modern century, and in advanced countries, collaborative learning is very much dominant and functional also, and applicable as well. But in third world countries, it's the one-man show. Still, teachers are dominant. They do not believe in collaborative learning strategies because it's a lack of teacher training. It's a lack of modern teaching and learning. And I believe that a trained teacher can contribute, can create a very positive impact, not only on the students' learning, but on the lives of the students also. So my talk concludes that considering students working together with their classroom has several advantages, as we talked about, that it leads students to be critical thinkers, to be very creative decision makers, and then trust builders. They build the trust also. They rely on each other in interdependence, as we said. And most importantly, this collaborative work, these collaborative strategies, they finally lead towards the insightful learning outcomes, to new knowledge, and towards a problem solving situation. This is it we are very much concerned about, because research is all about the problem. Once the problem is positively addressed, it can contribute insightful uh, insightful knowledge to research. So creating a collaborative classroom can be a wonderfully rewarding opportunity, but it is also full of challenges and dilemmas also. Of course, there are challenges. Of course, it's not easy. Because research has been spending millions of dollars on this especially, to see the effectiveness of collaborative learning strategies, and to see the use of effective collaborative strategies in the classroom. And it also emphasizes on the third world countries to initiate collaborative learning strategies in the classrooms, so as to make learning more effective and more knowledgeable. Collaborative classrooms stimulate both teachers and students. They have to be on the board. Learning collaboratively demands responsibility, persistence, and sensitivity. But the result can be a community of learners in which everyone is welcome to join, participate, and grow. Of course, you grow mature, you grow critical, you grow intellectual also by working together. It's all about the teamwork. It can allow teachers to support student learning through purposeful classroom practices such as collaborative learning, because collaborative learning leads to meaningful dialogues, leading students to be effective communicators. Once students are effective communicators, they can be critical and they can solve the problems in their particular context. It's possible because of collaborative learning strategies. And college and especially universities, they need to adopt this concept of collaborative learning strategies, and in which they need to give more space to learner centeredness, in which learners should be made authoritative in terms of making discussions, in terms of initiating the ideas and tasks and working on them together, taking everyone on board, that can finally lead towards the rich learning. Thank you so much. It was wonderful to be the part of this discussion. Thank you so much.